Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's workshop, an introduction to Epicor Kinetics. A few points of administration before we get started. All participants have been muted. However, if you have any questions at any point, please enter them into the chat box. You should be able to find the chat button near the bottom of your screen. We will be leaving time at the end of the session to answer any questions, and if we cannot get to them all, we will be sure to follow up with answers after the session. So as these last few people join us, let's get started today. So joining us today from the Teccweb team, we have Matt Peters, Johnny Wideneck, and myself, Beverly Scanlon. Johnny and Matt will be taking us through our demo today with an overview of the Kinetics interface. To begin, we'll be going through a short presentation on the background of Kinetics and why Epicor has chosen to move forward with this type of user interface. So Epicor has really allowed users to embrace Kinetics at their own pace, which is really wonderful from a change management perspective. It really helps to minimize any business disruptions that could occur as you go through your upgrade process with a really phased approach to adopting the Kinetic user interface and optimizing any customizations you may have in your current screens and applying them into your Kinetics through the use of Epicor Application Studio. So in 10.2.600, Epicor started to introduce the many Kinetic forms so that users could become familiar with the new user interface and provide Epicor with feedback. And then as we got into the release of 700, it really becomes a hybrid experience where certain personas or roles can adopt Kinetics while other users can remain in that classic view within your organization. And this really helps with a smooth deployment and a better adoption of Kinetics by targeting those specific user groups within your organization. And the idea is that by the time you're ready to upgrade to E11, as you may have seen, the new product will be releasing in April of 2021 for cloud customers, you can start thinking about your current customizations and how they can be built into these new Kinetic screens, with the idea that by the time you're ready to upgrade to 11.1, your organization is now familiar with the interface, and that switch to the full experience isn't such a huge change to manage. So Kinetics was first introduced back in the fall of 2018 with the active homepage, really allowing users to start to personalize their interactions with the system. So more than just a favorites, but making sure they're pinning those screen items that they want to see, as well as what we'll see in our demo is some really neat ways of interacting with data. Then in the fall of 2019, those trackers were now available in that Kinetic format, but again, they're optional, as you may see in your current versions of the system, where those classic versions of the screens are still accessible on the menus, and Kinetics can actually be turned off organizational-wide if that is what's determined to be best at the time. For those power users and the system administrators, the big item was really in the spring of 2020 with the introduction of the Epicor Application Studio. And that's now where the Kinetic screens could have personalizations, easy customizations made to them so that they really reflect how you do business, making those screens accessible and easy for your users. Then what we saw in the fall of 2020 with the newest release of 700 was that the Kinetics interface is now available not just in those trackers and reports, but now in our quote to cash forms. So those screens such as our order entry, purchase order entry, invoice entry, etc. And all of this is building in that phased approach to the release of 11.1, which is really meant to be a full modern user interface experience. So what is that modern-based experience built on? Well, while developing the new UI, Epicor really kept in mind these three brands on the screen and how users interact with them. So when you think about Amazon, you think about a great platform that's a really consistent experience no matter what device you're using to access it. So whether it's a mobile device or a laptop or a tablet, it's easy access, and you know that no matter what screen you're on, you're going to approach it in the same manner. With Google, it's that single search where you have one bar, you're going to type in your search and you know you're going to get the answer you're searching for. And then on the Pinterest side, that's the personalization, the ability to pin what interests you and have things show up that really are gathered towards your needs and requirements in the system. And this is really what's expected today from a piece of software. Everybody wants the technology tools that we use in our everyday lives to be simple, to be intuitive, and to really make our lives easier. So in developing a new user experience, Epicor had to ensure that it delivers for all the latest technology trends, not just that main piece of software that we're using in our day-to-day work lives. And so the Kinetic interface is found across the extended product line as well. So we'll see in the demo today how the interface reacts to changing screen sizes when we're using the main Epicor product. But also, as you can see on this slide, the Kinetic interface puts that cohesive skin across all Epicor products. So such as the AI, their virtual agent, Eva, the social enterprise tools available through Epicor Collaborate, and then the variety of mobile applications that are also currently available. So as the workforce changes and new generations of employees are entering the workspace, the demand is becoming ever greater that products also evolve and keep up to our modern day wants and needs. And so that expectation is that software is to be intuitive, requiring very minimal training to begin using and be accessible from anywhere or any device. And so the Kinetics interface is really Epicor's solution to this new expectation. So here's an example of one of the screens that we'll see today in our demo, the sales order entry screen. And the goal is really that it is to simplify our everyday tasks. So less clicks, more contextual information, the ability to personalize it so that we see only the information that we need to see when we need to see it. In the end, increasing our user productivity. So Johnny will get into more details about this screen, but as you can see, it is much different than our classic view. And I think this is what scares most users or makes them nervous. And so it's really learning where the information can be found and helping users through this. And this is what we hope to do today in our demo. One of the main differences that you can see here is that those tabs that we're used to using across the top of our order entry screen are no longer there. And these have now been replaced with these panel cards. So the ability all on one screen of opening and closing different pieces of information so that we can see it all in one spot, making it easier to navigate once you've learned it, and also easier to see all the information in one location. The other thing that we see now in Kinetics is along the left navigation bar, there is more embedded help and support in each of these screens. So when you open up your help, no longer is it just field help or application help, bringing up some documentation. You now have easy access to things such as videos, articles, guided learning, as well as those links to those important things such as your Epicor Learning Center, where your users can get any even more in-depth training experience, as well as your Epicor account if you need to enter a support ticket, as well as accessing your Teccweb account. And these are all tools that are really powerful and really great for helping to train your users within the system. So then we get into the Epicor Application Studio, and we won't be touching a whole lot on this today, but this is that tool for those tech users in your organization, for those power users. And it's based on best practices for user personalization and for system configuration. So it's secure, it's cloud friendly, and it won't break during upgrades. And the best part, it's really supposed to be that low to no code environment so that you don't need to have a really technical background in order to learn how to use this and make those customizations that are going to make these screens work for your organization. The one important thing to note is that for existing customizations, they will not be going away anytime soon. So they will be supported in the classic format until you make your move to Kinetics and upgrade that customization into a Kinetics format. And then even if you're using Kinetic screens in other areas of the software, if you have a customized screen, it will still automatically open in Classic. So you won't lose the ability to use your existing customizations. So one last slide before we get into our demo today. And this is if you would like to find more information specific to Kinetic, you can do so on Epicweb. So there is a page dedicated to the Kinetic resources. There are several guides with more information as well as FAQs, and the ability to see a list of every screen that currently has a Kinetics framework involved. And for those tech users in your organization, there's also a webinar there for the Epicor Application Studio. And so with that, we are going to jump into our Kinetics demo. So please bear with us just a moment as we switch our screens over.
Okay, I'm going to take you through a quick demo of the home screen, and probably go into order entry, show you some of the pieces of the new environment. Now, as Beverly mentioned, our buttons on the side here for navigation. This will always take you back to your home screen. And anybody who's used to using enterprise search, that's what you'll find under the big magnifying glass here. It will give you shortcuts to specific orders, part numbers, whatever you need to search for in the screen. And this next one down here is the menu search. And you can either go into different break. And your next one down on the list here is your favorites. And as you'll notice, on each one of these, you can go in and add it to your favorites. And these are the shortcuts to your favorites. And the next one down is your recent history, recently accessed menu items. And last one down here, we have the data discovery, which I'll jump to that in a minute. Now, your help screen, as Beverly mentioned, have the videos, articles, and guided tours, guided training, excuse me. Which will open up in your screen, and all the menus are searchable. Oh, here's another. This one will actually take you through a walkthrough of what each one of these forms is for. And for, let's see, again, we've got videos available for how to take you through each process or each form. And down here we have notifications. These are if you're set up to receive notifications for any process or any task. And you'll see a little yellow dot down here when they're ready. And here's where you change your different companies if you wanted to switch companies or users on the go. And from your home page here, these are going to be set up so that you can look at things that are of most interest to you, and you can get a snapshot view or go into a more detail. And so like here we have the default. So you can change it to a Pareto if you want to, in line or in process. You can also break it down to see the table values that are associated with the report. And you can modify different reports, add grid lines if you want to see those, and cumulative percentages or averages or moving averages. All depends on what options you have available on the report.
One thing to note is that all of these, all the views that you're seeing here, these widgets, they are canned in the Kinetics homepage package. They're part of Epicor Data Discovery, which is available by default without the advanced license. But with the basic data discovery, you only get the canned reports and you can't modify them. With the advanced data discovery module, you'll be able to create your own widgets based on custom BAQs, and then you can add them to your homepage layouts. What Johnny was showing you there on the homepage there is one of 4 canned layouts that is provided by Epicor. So there's a finance layout, there's a supply chain, inventory, and shipping one, I believe.
Yes.
Well, these are the tabs that are for this layout. If you wanted to change to another layout, there's actually a layout that's entirely finance, and there's there's 3 other layouts. Johnny, I don't know if you want to show them quick to change layouts. Right there, change layout. And then you can see, oh, there's an executive, finance, manufacturing, and supply chain. So depending on your role, these canned layouts or dashboards can actually give you more visibility and kind of like a 10,000 foot view of what's going on in your system, and then you can address things accordingly. Like, for example, if you had overdue shipments, you could have a widget here showing you the number of overdue shipments. Then you could drill down into that widget, pull up the grid, and see which values are actually which packs are overdue or haven't been shipped on time. And then you can address those as you see fit.
Right, because the same options would be available on those reports, such as here, where you can break it down to see the actual numbers that are being reported. And up here we have the ellipses, which will change depending on where you're at, what form you're in, what location you're at. These would be essentially your action items. Okay. And the one that I mentioned earlier, this is your data discovery. I actually went ahead and added one this morning. but the same options are available under these reports as well. You can also add filters, so that if you want to filter something down to specifics, all right. So if you wanted to go to just Addison, or just 5 customers or 10 customers, whatever you wish, you can just filter those out, filter down to those. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull up an order entry screen here. You have the option to switch to the Kinetic form. Your administrator can set these so that they come up automatically or come up as a user option. So we're going to go ahead and go with Kinetic's form. Now these are coming in here with the list option. But we're going to go ahead and create a new one. Now, just like before, you've got the search fields available, so you can pick which customer you're starting with, or you're searching for. And we're going to go ahead and add in the field number. Oh, you have to save on the first page here. And you get your order number up top with order total, currency, and let's go down to lines. Now you notice in the middle here, there's the lines also. This comes up in a spreadsheet display, a list display. But if you come down in detail, it gives you more a more user-friendly interface. All right, we're going to go ahead and add a new line. Okay, let's start with these. We'll do a search for our part number that we're looking for. Let's go E11. And again, we'll go ahead and save this. This line is saved. That'll add in our release number. Oh, I didn't put a quantity in there.
So yeah, as you can see, the order details, the order entry screen is quite different. However, the navigation is fairly seamless. As you can see, it's all on one page, so you can go through each section of your order. And if you look, you can see that some of these fields will change. Johnny, do you want to just maximize your screen there? And as it's a web-based form, essentially, it's going to automatically resize depending on the screen and the size of the window that you have open. So the idea being that it can then work on multiple platforms, tablets, phones, PCs, laptops. So, and the idea going forward with this process is that you won't necessarily need to have the smart client installed to use Epicor. Epicor has for a long time provided what's called Epicor Web Access. In a way, this is an improvement to that. So you'll get access to essentially the full client, but you won't necessarily need the smart client installed.
And over here, we have memos that we can add. Adding memo here would put it at the line detail. And of course, different categories. And you'll see that after a memo is added, see the little red dot here. It's your notification that there's a memo in there available. And you can pull that memo up like so. And, if you have changelog set up to run, this is where you would get your changelog information. And call logs, again, you can either search for a specific call log or add one in.
I'm just going to add something in here. Yeah, so essentially all of this functionality works the same as it does in the current smart client, but the interface is different. Now regarding this change, I'll answer one of the questions right now. It's in a way, this is similar to the change to SSRS from Crystal. It may appear to be a change mostly for change's sake, but it is an improvement to the technology. The idea being is that for customizations, for example, you won't need nearly as much technical experience to create a customization. And it'd be a little bit more friendly because it's a graphical user interface for the customization. There really isn't a code backend. If you do have any custom code functions that need to be processed, that you need still, what is recommended is moving those from a customization layer to a BPM, either data directive or method directives. And those function the same way that they currently do. So you can use custom code, any number of the BPM functions that exist inside of data directives and method directives. Yeah, basically, this is essentially the view of most of the forms. So it can seem a little bit daunting at first, especially when you are used to using, the smart client as it has existed in previous versions. You get used to that. You get very quick with that. This will be no different. It is a bit of a change, but in this case, change can often be good. And in this case, I believe that this is going to provide much greater flexibility to where and when you can process, where and when you can use Epicor. Epicor has provided a number of mobile applications for a while. And they're not entirely, it's been a stepped process. This is going to be moving more towards, kind of like a more full-fledged mobile experience, but not just mobile across any device. So Johnny, if you want to show them the print dialog, we can see that, and then I can walk you guys through a little bit of what the application maintenance screen looks like. So the print dialogues are quite different. Essentially, you're looking at like you won't necessarily, you're not seeing the report style that you would normally see or the archive period that you would normally see, and it's a much bigger screen. But if you expand out these ribbons or these accordion options here, you'll see that you'll have all the same functions, all the same options as you would in a normal screen. I mean, essentially, these print screens work the same, except with the exception of that, if you do have a heavily customized print dialog screen, then you'll want to move that logic that you have built into the screen customization to a BPM, and then you can build your trigger in this on a customization layer. So as you can see, you've selected one order, and there's your print preview screen and your print dialog. And so as you can see, pretty much the back end functions mostly the same. It's more of a graphical print change, and then of course for functionality. The idea being, because a lot of customizations, especially if it's a really heavy customization, it's using logic that can potentially, I mean, not always, right? Often customizations are built very well, but there's always a potential with a customization with heavy custom coding in the back end to be able to fail, especially on an upgrade. And sometimes the logic, the methods change entirely between versions. With the Kinetic screens, the customization layer will always upgrade successfully to the next version. You won't end up having to deal with a whole bunch of troubleshooting as to, why the custom code that you had in the previous version isn't working in the new version. That custom code should work fine in a BPM, as the BPM logic, it does change, but usually not quite as drastic as some of the methods that are in the customization layer. So another thing that there has been a lot of questions about is whether or not you can still do the right-click copy to Excel from a grid, and that is absolutely the case. Johnny, if you want to go ahead and click up on lines there. And you see this here. If you just right-click in that grid, you get all this.
I'm sorry, which one?
Yeah, you were right there. Yes, it should work with Mac browsers. That shouldn't be a problem. It should be a. Okay, well, let's go to a more grid view. Do you want to open up a dashboard with a grid? Or here, bear with me for a moment. Yeah, this looks like the old screen there, Johnny. Bear with me for a moment. I'll share my screen here. Okay, does everybody see my screen?
Yes, we're good.
Perfect. Okay, so as you can see here in the order tracker screen, it's your standard grid that you would see in any dashboard or really many tracker screens. There it is. So if you click the ellipsis at the top of the grid, so you won't have a right-click export to Excel, but if you click on the ellipsis at the top of the grid, you'll be able to export to Excel. And yeah, save. see where it is. Okay. All right, this this server may not have Excel installed here. Let's see if I can export as a CSV here if I choose that. Oh, no. Okay, but as you can see, it did export an Excel sheet. Right here. And if I copy this over here, just show you what the data is in that Excel sheet. So as you can see, it pulled out all the order numbers, the order date, POs, etc. I mean, this is, you know, essentially the same as the current functionality of export to Excel. Many grids, you should be able to select. Yeah, I guess in this grid, we're only able to select one record at a time or export them all. But typically, you would be able to select a list just like you are now. Oh, maybe it's just a little bit slow. Apologies, the server is a little bit underpowered here. So let's go back. Now you do need a relatively well-provisioned server in order to use this effectively. As it is web-based, there's a lot of services, REST services, etc., in the back end that are running, and as such, it does require a fair bit of processing power. This machine only has about it's low spec, so that's the reason why it's a bit slow here. Yeah, it looks like from this grid we won't be able to do that, but typically from any other grid, you should be able to right-click and export here. Let me just get an example. Let's try this again from Tracker here. Okay. And I guess here we would have our export to Excel as well. Yeah, so we'll likely need a more of a of a dashboard-like look. Okay. Anyways, regardless, the functionality does exist there, and keep in mind that this is improving in every single version, even the updates. So we have a server that has 10.2.700.0, and we have this one is 10.2.700.10, and the Kinetics functionality changes within each update version. So they are improving it with every update. As far as customization, customization is very much different than it has been in the past. So, for example, if we do order tracker, because that's what I've been using, you can click here and you can go directly to customization. Alternatively, and then you will get this option here where it'll ask you if you want to use the base or use the current customization layer that is being used. So we'll just use current layer here. I'll show you guys how to add a, you know, kind of just show you the basics in here. This is your main page here where it shows you all the different items. If you look here, this is a tab, and this is a detail screen. You can tell by the icons here. And the tab you won't be able to make any changes to, even though it lets you make a modification, but you won't be able to drag a button into this, for example. As you can see, there's the do not, you know, the circle with a line in it, and that's you know, that's normal for a tab. As far as the details, however, those you can definitely add stuff in, and you'll see there's the same layout here. It's just that is the tab, the panel tab, and this is the panel sheet, essentially. So if you wanted to add a button, you just drag it over on the screen, and you can drag it anywhere as you want, basically. And then here, you've got your properties. So right now, it's generated the system ID here. So you got your test button. And then you can basically use this ID to generate your event. So now that you've got this button in here, you can then create a new event. So from here, and this is your event page, here is your row rules. So you can set a variety of row rules here. That looks like that's system locked. So you can either create new ones, and often you can, get into these system locked views, and you can copy them and have them, add your own functionality to them, much the way you can do in, for, grabbing native control references in the current customization layer. So from here on the events page, this is what would do how you would create an event, for example. So if I wanted to create a new event, I just click on the new events tab there, or button, and then I name it. And then if you wanted to, you need to click that add trigger button. Sorry about that. Here.
So Matt, we have a question. Would any changes, customizations made in Kinetic also show up in the classic view window?
No, this is exclusively for Kinetics. The classic window would need to be customized the same way that that is available currently in the previous versions. Okay, and so you can go through here on the tools here, and you can set a variety of events. Again, these are all very new, so there's quite a bit of quite a bit to figure out with these, but as they are, it's obviously a very graphical interface here. You can, basically you just drag the items in, essentially. So what we'll do here is, I was going to launch the sales order pick list, but what we'll do here is we'll do a dialogue rather. I'll just show you how to do a basic text box here. So now that you've got the dialogue show item in here, you want to go over to properties. And then type is information, and I'm sure that they're going to add a drop down here for information, exception. This is the type of message that you're showing. Here is your message. And then you can also, programmatically or add an event here. There isn't a lot of information on this event viewer yet, or event editor yet, but it uses JSON syntax. So this is where you define any custom, custom dialogues that you would want. So on confirmation, it does this. On no, it does this. On cancel, it does this. So each of these is like an event in this dialogue. So, and the view, I believe this is where we'd put our test button, our ID for our button. So now that we've got that, we can save this here. It does take a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now we've got this. You can preview your customization using this little play button here at the top. And then you can click the button. I'm not sure if it fires the logic when you're in a preview mode. But essentially here is, okay, yeah, so here is one that I've built before. This test button just shows a regular information. I must have missed a parameter in here or something like that. But essentially, that's how you would build an event and tie it to a button. So you can, like I said, you can either access the customization from the ellipsis in the when you launch the form, or you can go to Kinetic application maintenance here. Oh, no, this is where you would turn it off. Apologies here. Application Studio homepage, that's it. Some very new features here. So, and then from here, you can, it's gonna load all of the apps and reports and processes in here, and you can then go ahead and double click on whichever one you want to modify, essentially, and it'll bring it up. And I apologize, looks like we're running out of time, so we can't get too much more in depth in this. But hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your questions here now.
Matt, while you're in that area, I think in the Kinetic application maintenance, maybe we can answer this question from Carrie. I don't have the new entry screen for purchase orders or sales orders or any notification of either. Is this something extra we have to install?
What version are they on?
So Carrie, if you can just enter the version, or you can always reach out to us after as well, and we can talk a bit more about what may be occurring there so that we can get you those extra screens. There is also a question on doing a system-wide search for specific part numbers. Can only do a menu item search. Is something turned off?
Like a system-wide search for specific part numbers, like from enterprise search here?
Carrie, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free to elaborate.
Hi, Beverly. I was going to say, Carrie's on 10.2.700. It might
Perfect.
be a patch level version that they're not patched up high enough to see those particular screens.
It's possible, yeah. So,
hello?
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Hi. We just upgraded to 10, was it 10.7? I forget what it was.
10.2.700, Carrie.
We just did it in January, and it was the newest version, so.
Right. Okay, so some of these screens may not be available until you're in a in the update version that they became available. Alternatively, let me just show you how to do this really quick. They aren't set to be Kinetics by default on the menu. So if you want, you can always add. It doesn't look like they've given us the ability to modify existing menu items to set them as Kinetics, and that's likely going to be in a future version. But for example, order tracker here under order management is not a Kinetic screen. You can tell the difference because order entry here, oh, nope, never mind, it's not from here. But regardless, it's not a Kinetic screen. It will show Kinetics app here, essentially. So I'll show you how we would, if you wanted to use it, you can add it. So just like you would add any other menu item, you just go, there we go, new menu. Okay. And then from this program type here, you're going to select Kinetics app. Okay, so then you'll be able to select the. Oh, it doesn't look like that likes to. Probably.
Sorry, did you say there was a newer version that they're automatically there, or does everyone have to do this?
Well, currently, because they are rolling this out, they don't want to bombard everybody with the Kinetic screens enabled by default, as many people are comfortable with the classic screens. So what they've done is they've created some Kinetics links in the menu. Otherwise, some of them you will need to set up. So in this case, we've got our sales order tracker, Kinetic app, and then we can save this. And if we exited Epicor and relaunched it under general operations, order management, this would show up and it will open up the Kinetics app. For now, many of the Kinetics screens are in executive analysis, trackers, Kinetic. These are all trackers, and every one of these trackers is a Kinetic screen. So if you wanted to get used to taking a look at some of these screens and seeing how they look compared to the classic versions, that's an option. Many of the entry screens are also available in Kinetics. However, I have found that many of them you need to just add a menu item that is a Kinetics app menu item. So
it's hard to recommend them to people if you can't use them, right?
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And if if there's a couple of screens that you want to add to this as Kinetic screens and then just roll them out slowly to users, that's one way of definitely getting it done and trying to get buy-in on this. I know that when things change, often it's hard for people to get on board with the change, especially if they're used to how it functioned earlier, right? And typically from an average user perspective, there really is no reason to change. However, this is our way of moving. This is Epicor's way of moving forward to new architecture, better options, better integrations with other software, and better availability across all devices. So, yeah, at the moment, that's how you would add them. If you don't already see them in the menu, if you don't already get the option, from when you open up the screen, if you don't get an option saying there's Kinetic app, then you can always add this to the menu as a Kinetic app. And there is a list of all of the applications that are available in Kinetics on Epicweb.
Great, thanks, Matt.
No problem.
And I think the other question we have is from Graham. And Graham, I'm going to take that offline and see if we can find something. I haven't as of yet seen something that actually gives numbers on how much more efficient or effective individuals are using the Kinetic formats, but we'll definitely take that offline and see if we can find anything. And if we can, we will absolutely send that out to you. So I think if there's no further questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you so much for your time. Keep an eye out. We do plan on having workshops in the future, with our next one occurring in April. And it will be on ECM DocStar, what it is and how it can be used within your organization. And if you have any further questions on Kinetics or on anything else, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, either to Matt, Johnny, or myself, or to info@teccweb.com. Thank you very much, everyone.